What if I told you that Nigeria, the giant of Africa, famous for its music, culture, and bustling cities, is also home to some of the most extraordinary birds on Earth? From mighty eagles with voices that echo across rivers, to tiny jewel-like sunbirds that shimmer in the sunlight, Nigeria's skies are filled with surprises you won't find anywhere else. In this video, we'll take a journey through 15 rare bird species found only in Nigeria's landscapes, from its vast savannas to its winding rivers and lush wetlands. Each bird has its own story. Some are hunters, some are builders, some are tricksters, and all of them are unforgettable. But here's my challenge for you. Before we reveal all 15, take a guess. Which bird do you think will impress you the most? Will it be a fierce predator, a colorful performer, or maybe a little bird with a big personality? Stick around until the end to see if your guess is right. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share in the comments. Which bird from Nigeria would you most love to see in the wild? Now let's begin with a true legend of African skies. A bird whose call is often called the voice of Africa, the African fish eagle. If Africa had a national soundtrack, the opening note would be the call of the African fish eagle. Picture yourself standing by a wide Nigerian river at dawn. The water glows gold, fishermen cast their nets, and suddenly a piercing cry splits the air. It's a sound so iconic it's often called the voice of Africa, and once you hear it, you'll never forget it. The African fish eagle is a striking bird. Dark wings, a chestnut belly, and a crisp white head and breast that make it look almost like it's wearing a tuxedo. And like any star in a tuxedo, it knows how to put on a show. With wings spanning over 7 feet, it soars effortlessly above lakes and rivers, scanning the water for its next meal. Then, in a flash, it dives down, talons outstretched, and snatches a fish right from the surface. Sometimes it carries prey almost as heavy as itself, like a fisherman hauling in a prize catch. Here's a fun fact. The fish eagle has rough, spiny pads on its feet that work like built-in Velcro, gripping slippery fish so they can't escape. That's a clever trick most anglers would love to have. But here's the twist. Despite its fame, the African fish eagle is more than a hunter. It's also a symbol. In Nigeria, its cry is part of the soundtrack of life along great rivers like the Niger and Benue. For locals, hearing that call at sunrise isn't just background noise. It's reassurance that the river's alive, that the balance of nature still holds. Imagine watching one circle overhead, then swoop down in a perfect dive. Would you grab your camera, or would you just freeze, jaw open, listening to the sound of Africa itself? So here's my question. If you could hear the call of the fish eagle echoing across a Nigerian river, what would it remind you of? Freedom, wilderness, or maybe even music? Share your thoughts in the comments. And speaking of music, our next bird doesn't just sing. It talks, mimics, and sometimes argues better than we do. Let's meet the brilliant Grey Parrot. Sometimes sound uncannily like ours. The Grey Parrot. If the fish eagle is the anthem of Africa, the Grey Parrot is its comedian, politician, and storyteller all rolled into one. The Grey Parrot is striking in its own subtle way. It's mostly a soft ash gray, but its tail flashes a bright crimson red, like a splash of paint on a canvas. They gather in noisy flocks in Nigeria's forests, chattering, squawking, and sometimes mimicking human speech so perfectly that you might turn your head, wondering who just called your name. Here's a fun fact. Grey parrots are considered among the most intelligent birds in the world. Studies show they can not only mimic words but understand concepts like numbers, shapes, even same and different. Some have vocabularies of over 1,000 words. Imagine a bird at your backyard feeder greeting you every morning with, "Coffee ready yet?" But here's the twist. That same intelligence makes them highly sensitive and vulnerable. In the wild, Grey parrots form lifelong bonds and tight social groups. When they're captured for the pet trade, they suffer deeply. Their populations have declined dramatically in parts of West Africa, including Nigeria. Conservationists warn that unless stronger protections are enforced, one of Africa's most famous voices could fall silent. Still, when you see them flying free, flashes of red tails against the green canopy, it's pure joy. Their chatter fills the forest with life, and their mimicry makes you wonder if nature sometimes has a sense of humor. So here's my question. If you could teach a gray parrot one phrase, what would it be? A joke? A song lyric? Or maybe just a reminder to like and subscribe? Share your thoughts in the comments. And from a bird that dazzles with brains and comedy, we move to one that dazzles with sheer color and acrobatics. Next up is the spectacular blue-bellied roller, a bird that turns the skies into a circus show. If the gray parrot is the talker of Nigeria's forests, then the blue-bellied roller is the showman of its skies. Just imagine a bird dressed in turquoise blue, cream white, and deep chocolate brown, colors so vivid they look painted on. When it takes flight, its electric blue wings flash like neon signs against the savanna sky. The blue-bellied roller is not just about looks, it's about performance. This bird has a flair for aerial stunts. During courtship or territorial displays, it swoops, twists, and rolls in the air, literally rolling through the sky in a series of acrobatic flips. It's like watching a circus act on wings, and it's so spectacular that the bird was named after this very behavior. Here's a fun fact. Rollers are famous for their hunting technique. They perch on a branch or telephone wire, waiting like statues. Then they drop suddenly to the ground, snatching grasshoppers, beetles, or lizards with lightning speed before returning to their perch. It's a simple but effective sit, wait, and pounce strategy. Now for the twist. Despite their flashy colors and acrobatics, blue-bellied rollers are surprisingly tough. They thrive in open woodlands and even near villages, adapting to landscapes where other species might struggle. In many ways, they symbolize resilience, living beautifully and boldly, even in changing environments. For birdwatchers in Nigeria, the sight of one rolling dramatically through the air is unforgettable. It's the kind of bird that makes you stop mid-step, point upward, and shout, "Did you see that?" So here's my question. If you could fly like a blue-bellied roller for just one day, would you use it to impress the crowd with tricks? Or just soar quietly enjoying the view? Let me know in the comments. And from the roller's flamboyant stunts, we move to a very different kind of bird. With a curved bill and a comical call, it's one of Nigeria's most recognizable savanna residents, the African gray hornbill. From the dazzling flips of the blue-bellied roller, we now meet a bird that may not be a stunt pilot, but it carries its own kind of charm, the African gray hornbill. This bird is instantly recognizable, thanks to its long, curved bill that looks almost oversized for its slender body. In Nigeria's savannas and woodlands, that silhouette against the sky is unmistakable. The gray hornbill is dressed in soft gray plumage with a pale belly, but it's that bill that steals the show. Arched, powerful, and edged with white. It uses it like a multi-tool, cracking open fruits, snatching insects, even grabbing small reptiles when the opportunity arises. Watching one hop from branch to branch, bill swinging like a pendulum, is both comical and fascinating. Here's a fun fact. Hornbills have a unique way of raising their young. The female seals herself inside a tree cavity with mud, leaving only a narrow slit. The male then delivers food through the slit for weeks until the chicks are old enough to break free. It's a dramatic example of trust and teamwork. He feeds, she broods, and together they ensure survival. Now for the twist. Unlike their larger cousins like the great hornbill of Asia, the African gray hornbill is surprisingly adaptable. They don't just stick to deep forests. They thrive near villages and even farmlands, making them one of the few hornbills that can live alongside people. Their comical calls, a kind of cackling laugh, often echo across the savanna as if they're chuckling at the world below. For locals in Nigeria, the gray hornbill isn't just background noise. It's part of daily life. Seeing one fly overhead with a fruit clamped in its massive bill is like seeing a delivery truck making its rounds. Reliable, steady, and oddly reassuring. So here's my question. If you saw a gray hornbill laughing from a tree branch, would you laugh back or just shake your head at nature's sense of humor? Tell me in the comments. From this gray comedian of the savannah, we move to a raptor with a far darker edge. Clever, powerful, and armed with unusually flexible legs. Let's meet the African Harrier-Hawk. From the laughing call of the gray hornbill, we now turn to a bird that's more like a master thief of the African skies, the African Harrier-Hawk. At first glance, it looks like a typical raptor, broad wings, long tail, and a sharp beak. But look closer, and you'll see what makes this bird so special. Its bare yellow face flushes red when it's excited, and its double-jointed legs can bend forward and backward, like a bird with yoga training. This flexibility gives the Harrier-Hawk a hunting trick few other raptors can match. It can reach deep into holes, cracks, or nests in tree trunks, pulling out prey that other birds can only dream about. Chicks, lizards, even bats hiding in crevices, none are safe from those contortionist legs. Watching one at work is like watching a professional safecracker, slipping its tools into impossible places. Here's a fun fact. Locals in parts of Africa sometimes call it the gymnast bird because of this acrobatic leg maneuver. Scientists, however, see it as a perfect example of evolution, giving a predator the right tool for a very specific job. Now for the twist. Despite its fierce abilities, the Harrier-Hawk isn't always feared. Sometimes smaller birds will mob it, chasing it through the air in noisy groups, trying to drive it away from their nests. Imagine being one of the most skilled hunters around and still getting bullied by sparrows. It's a humbling reminder that even the mighty face challenges. In Nigeria, spotting an African Harrier-Hawk soaring across the savannah is a thrill. Its flight is graceful yet powerful, gliding with wings stretched wide before swooping down to investigate a tree cavity. For birdwatchers, it's a mix of admiration and curiosity. What trick will it pull off next? So here's my question. If you had the chance to watch this gymnast bird in action, would you cheer for its clever skills or secretly root for the smaller birds trying to chase it away? Tell me in the comments. From this clever contortionist of the skies, we move to another raptor, sleek, pale, and elegant, gliding low over the grasslands. Let's meet the Pallid harrier. From the gymnastic tricks of the African Harrier-Hawk, we now move to a bird that hunts with elegance rather than force, the Pallid harrier. Picture the open grasslands of northern Nigeria, stretching wide under a golden sky. Suddenly, a pale ghost-like figure glides just above the ground, wingtips brushing the tall grass. This is the Pallid harrier, a master of stealth and grace. The male is a vision of subtle beauty, light gray with black wingtips, slender and sleek. The female, clad in mottled brown, blends seamlessly into the savannah, the perfect disguise for nesting. But it's their style of flight that leaves watchers spellbound. Unlike the dramatic dives of falcons or the soaring circles of eagles, harriers skim low, almost floating, scanning for mice, larks, and grasshoppers. Then with a sudden tilt of the wings, they drop and strike in one fluid motion. Here's a fun fact. The name harrier comes from their harassing hunting style. They don't rely on brute speed. They use patience, stealth, and surprise. It's like watching a silent dancer cross a stage before delivering the final dramatic move. Now for the twist. The Pallid harrier is a migrant, traveling thousands of miles from breeding grounds in Eastern Europe and Central Asia to spend winters in Africa. Nigeria's grasslands are part of their seasonal home, but their journey is perilous. With grasslands disappearing across the globe, their numbers are shrinking. Every sighting in Nigeria is both a gift and a reminder of the delicate web that connects continents. Imagine standing in the savannah at dusk, the air buzzing with insects when a Pallid harrier floats by, silent and ghost-like. Would you feel a chill at its presence or admiration for its effortless grace? So here's my question. If you could watch a Pallid harrier hunt at sunset, would you describe it as eerie, beautiful, or both? Share your thoughts in the comments. From this spectral dancer of the savannah, we now move to a bird that hunts in a completely different way, not from the sky, but by skimming the very surface of rivers. Next up is the remarkable African skimmer. From the ghostly glide of the Pallid harrier, we head to the rivers of Nigeria, where one of the most unusual fishing birds in the world performs its daily magic, the African skimmer. Imagine standing by the Niger River as the sun sets, the water glowing orange, when a flock of long-winged birds sweeps low over the surface. Their bills slice the water like scissors. This isn't just flying, it's fishing on the wing. The African skimmer's most remarkable feature is its beak. Unlike most birds, the lower mandible is much longer than the upper. As the bird skims, the bottom bill cuts the water, snapping shut the instant it touches a fish. It's like a living mousetrap designed for rivers. Watching a group of skimmers fly in formation, bills slicing through the surface, is mesmerizing, like a choreographed dance between sky and water. Here's a fun fact. African skimmers are often compared to airplanes because of their long, narrow wings and precision flight. Pilots have even studied their movements for inspiration. Who knew a bird could double as an aerodynamics teacher? Now for the twist. Despite their skill, skimmers are vulnerable to changes in river systems. Dams, pollution, and disturbance can reduce their feeding grounds. Their nesting strategy is also risky. They lay eggs directly on exposed sandbars, where floods or human activity can wipe out a whole colony. Seeing them in Nigeria is both a joy and a gentle reminder of how fragile river life can be. Still, when they take to the air, they feel eternal. Their silent, graceful sweeps over the river at dusk capture something timeless. Wild Africa distilled into a single movement. So here's my question. If you had the chance to see an African skimmer at work, would you describe it as a fisherman, a dancer, or maybe even a pilot of the rivers? Tell me in the comments. From this aerial fisherman, we now move to a much smaller bird of the wetlands. Black, bold, and surprisingly fearless, it's time to meet the black crake. From the elegant sweep of the African skimmer, we now step into the wetlands, where a much smaller bird struts around with surprising confidence, the black crake. Don't let its size fool you. This little water bird, jet black with a bright yellow beak and fire-red eyes, has a personality far bigger than its body. The black crake is often found walking boldly along the edges of Nigerian marshes, ponds, and rice paddies. Unlike many shy water birds that vanish at the first sign of humans, the black crake is fearless. It will often forage right out in the open, picking at insects, snails, and even the occasional frog, as if daring you to come closer. For birdwatchers, that bravery makes it one of the easiest and most entertaining species to observe. Here's a fun fact. Black crakes are excellent swimmers and climbers. They can clamber up reeds with surprising agility, balancing like acrobats, and they sometimes use floating vegetation like lily pads as platforms to forage. With their bright colors against the green wetlands, they look almost theatrical, like nature's little stage performers. Now for the twist. Despite their boldness, black crakes are fiercely protective parents. Both male and female share the work of building a nest, incubating eggs, and raising chicks. If a predator approaches, they'll put on a dramatic, broken wing display, pretending to be injured to lure danger away from their young. It's a clever trick, and it shows just how resourceful these little birds are. In Nigeria, where wetlands provide food and livelihoods for many communities, the black crake is a small but vibrant part of the ecosystem. Watching one strut through the reeds feels like watching a tiny guardian patrolling its watery kingdom. So here's my question. If you saw a bird with bright red eyes boldly walking around your feet, would you laugh at its courage or step back, just in case it decided to challenge you? Tell me in the comments. From this fearless little marsh dweller, we move to another bird of the wetlands, one that seems to walk on water itself. Next up is the amazing African Jacana. From the bold little black crake, we move to a bird that seems to perform miracles every day. The African Jacana, often nicknamed the Jesus bird. Why? Because when you first see it, it looks like it's literally walking on water. The trick lies in its feet. The African Jacana has impossibly long toes and claws, which spread its weight across floating plants like lily pads. Instead of sinking, it trots gracefully across the surface, as if defying gravity. In Nigeria's wetlands and rivers, these birds are a common but unforgettable sight. Long-legged chestnut-brown bodies gliding over the water, crowned with a sharp blue forehead shield. Here's a fun fact. In the world of jacanas, it's the males who do most of the childcare. After the female lays eggs in a floating nest, she moves on, while the male takes full responsibility for incubation and raising the chicks. He even has a comical trick. When danger approaches, He scoops up his tiny chicks under his wings and runs off, their little legs sticking out awkwardly from the sides. It looks funny, but it's incredibly effective. Now for the twist. While jacanas are delightful to watch, they also play a vital role in wetland ecosystems. By eating insects and small invertebrates that live on floating plants, they help keep the balance of the aquatic environment. Their presence is a sign of healthy wetlands. And in Nigeria, where waterways are lifelines, the jacana is more than just eye candy. It's an ecological guardian. Watching one glide across lily pads feels like watching a magician perform. And when a flock moves together, it looks like a parade of dancers skipping across the water's surface. So here's my question. If you saw an African jacana sprinting across lily pads with chicks tucked under its wings, would you laugh at the comedy or marvel at the miracle of fatherhood in the bird world? Tell me in the comments. From this water walker, we now shift to a smaller, land-based bird. Energetic, sprightly, and always wagging its tail like it's keeping time to its own music. Let's meet the African pied wagtail. After watching the jacana glide across lily pads, it's time to meet a bird that never seems to stand still, the African pied wagtail. If the jacana looks like it's walking on water, the wagtail looks like it's dancing to its own beat. This charming little bird wears a simple but striking outfit, crisp black and white feathers, almost like a tiny tuxedo. But what really sets it apart is its constant tail wagging. Wherever it goes, perched on a rock, running along a riverbank, or darting through a village, it's bobbing its tail up and down, as if it's keeping rhythm to a song only it can hear. Here's a fun fact. Scientists aren't entirely sure why wagtails wag their tails. Some say it's a way to flush out insects, others think it's a signal to other birds, and some even believe it's just for fun. Whatever the reason, it makes the African pied wagtail one of the most animated little characters in Nigeria's wetlands and towns. Despite its small size, this bird is adaptable and bold. It thrives near rivers, lakes, and even human settlements, often running along the ground like a sprinter in miniature. Its diet is mostly insects, which it snatches with quick darting movements. Another reason it always looks busy. Now for the twist. While the wagtail seems playful, it's also incredibly resilient. It's one of those species that has learned to live side by side with people, finding food around villages and farms without losing its wild charm. For locals, it's a familiar sight, cheerful, lively, and almost companion-like. Imagine sitting by a Nigerian river and a little black and white bird hops by, wagging its tail furiously as if telling you to cheer up. Would you laugh at its silly dance or smile at its determination to brighten up the shoreline? So here's my question. If you could give the African pied wagtail a song to dance to, which one would you choose? Share your pick in the comments. From this tiny dancer, we now move to a much noisier neighbor, a bird that doesn't just live in groups, it builds massive, tangled cities of nests. Next up, the red-billed buffalo weaver. From the sprightly little pied wagtail, we now move to a bird that believes in the saying, the more, the merrier. Meet the red-billed buffalo weaver, one of Nigeria's most social and industrious birds. At first glance, it may not seem like much. Dark, almost black plumage with a flash of white in its wings. But the real showstopper is that bright red bill, a splash of color against its otherwise plain body. And when you see it in action, you realize this bird is more than a splash of red. It's an architect, an engineer, and a noisy neighbor all rolled into one. Red-billed buffalo weavers are colony nesters, and not just small colonies. Dozens of pairs gather together to build gigantic communal nests made of sticks and twigs, often in tall trees or on utility poles. The result looks like a massive, tangled fortress, sometimes big enough to be mistaken for a haystack. Inside, each pair has its own chamber, but the whole structure is alive with chatter, squabbles, and constant activity. Here's a fun fact. These nests can house hundreds of birds and last for years, being added to and remodeled like an ever-expanding apartment complex. Imagine the noise of all those roommates calling, bickering, and singing at the same time. It's nature's version of a crowded city block. Now for the twist. While their nesting colonies are chaotic, they actually provide safety in numbers. Predators have a hard time sneaking up on a fortress full of sharp-eyed birds ready to raise the alarm. In this way, the buffalo weaver proves that even in the wild, community living has its perks. In Nigeria, their colonies are a familiar sight across the savannas, adding character to the landscape. Locals sometimes joke that these birds are busier gossiping than working, but their noisy energy is part of what makes them unforgettable. So here's my question. If you had to choose, would you rather live in peaceful solitude like an eagle, or in a noisy, bustling apartment block like the buffalo weaver? Tell me in the comments. From this social architect, we move to another weaver, smaller, brighter, and a true artist when it comes to nest building. Let's meet the fiery orange weaver. From the noisy apartment blocks of the red-billed buffalo weaver, we now turn to a bird that takes construction to an entirely new level, the orange weaver. If the buffalo weaver builds a fortress, the orange weaver builds a palace of elegance. Males in breeding season are a sight to behold. Brilliant orange-red bodies that glow like embers in the sun, with dark wings providing sharp contrast. These fiery little birds gather in colonies near rivers and wetlands in Nigeria, and when dozens of males display together, the reeds seem to burst into flame. It's one of nature's most dazzling spectacles, but the real artistry comes in their nests. Each male weaver crafts an intricate globe-shaped nest, woven carefully from strips of grass and reeds. He doesn't just build, he performs. Hanging from his nest, wings fluttering, he calls loudly to attract a female. If she inspects the nest and doesn't like it, too bad. He has to start over and build another, sometimes repeating the process several times until she's satisfied. It's the avian version of try again. Here's a fun fact. Females are picky for good reason. A well-built nest not only shows off the male's skill, but also ensures safety from predators and harsh weather. In a way, nest building is both a dating game and a survival strategy. Now for the twist. While their bright colors make them beautiful, they also make them vulnerable. Predators can easily spot the glowing males, but the risk is worth it. After all, in the bird world, the boldest displays often win the prize. In Nigeria, colonies of orange weavers are a delight for both locals and visitors. Their fiery plumage and tireless construction projects add color and energy to riversides. Watching them feels like standing in the middle of an avian festival. So here's my question. If you were choosing a partner, would you pick the bird with the brightest feathers, or the one who could build the strongest, safest nest? Let me know in the comments. From these fiery builders, we move to another bird that also transforms its look for love. Next up is the dramatic black-winged bishop, a bird that changes its entire outfit just to impress. From the fiery artistry of the orange weaver, we move to a bird that doesn't just build, it transforms. Meet the black-winged bishop, a small, unassuming bird for most of the year, until breeding season arrives. That's when the magic happens. For much of the year, male bishops look rather plain, brownish, streaked, blending into the grasslands. But when it's time to impress the ladies, the male undergoes a dramatic makeover. His feathers burst into fiery red and orange, contrasting with jet black wings and face. Suddenly, this little bird looks like it's been dipped in fire. Imagine a meadow full of them, glowing like sparks against the green. It's one of Nigeria's most unforgettable sights. Here's a fun fact. The transformation isn't just visual. Males also put on elaborate display flights, puffing out their feathers, fluttering in circles, and showing off like tiny peacocks. The combination of bold colors and energetic dances is their ticket to winning a mate. Now for the twist. This dazzling makeover comes with risks. The bright plumage makes males easy targets for predators. In other words, their very beauty puts their lives on the line. But in the bird world, it's a gamble worth taking. The flashiest performers often get the girl. Black-winged bishops are part of Nigeria's grassland chorus, and seeing them in full breeding dress is like stumbling into nature's fashion show. One moment, you're looking at a nondescript little sparrow-like bird. The next, you're staring at a living ember. Imagine being a female bishop in a field surrounded by a dozen fiery suitors. Would you go for the brightest, the boldest dancer, or the one who quietly proves he's reliable? So here's my question. If you had to choose between safety and camouflage or standing out in blazing color, which would you pick? Share your answer in the comments. From these fiery fashionistas, we now turn to a very different bird. Small, shimmering, and metallic, like a living jewel. Next up, the copper sunbird. From the fiery makeover of the black-winged bishop, we now turn to a bird that doesn't need costumes or fancy tricks to shine. It carries its own built-in spotlight. Meet the copper sunbird, a tiny creature that gleams like a living piece of jewelry. At just a few inches long, the copper sunbird is easy to overlook at first. But once sunlight hits its feathers, it transforms. The male's plumage glitters in metallic shades of bronze, copper, and green, shimmering like polished metal. In Nigeria's gardens and savannas, these little birds are like flying gemstones, darting among flowers with incredible speed. Here's a fun fact. Copper sunbirds, like hummingbirds in the Americas, are nectar specialists. They sip sweet nectar from blossoms with their long, curved bills, often hovering briefly as they feed. And just like hummingbirds, they play a crucial role in pollination. Every visit to a flower spreads pollen, making them tiny gardeners of the ecosystem. Now for the twist. While the males shimmer like copper coins in the sun, the females are much plainer, olive brown and easy to miss. This contrast is nature's way of balancing beauty with practicality. Males shine to attract mates, while females stay camouflaged to protect their nests. It's a reminder that sometimes survival means trading glamour for subtlety. Despite their size, copper sunbirds are full of energy. They zip from flower to flower, singing high, sweet notes as if they're narrating their own busy schedule. Watching them feels almost like watching sparks bounce from petal to petal. Imagine sipping tea in a Nigerian village garden, and suddenly a flash of metallic bronze zips past your nose. Would you think it was a bug at first, or realize you just caught a glimpse of one of Africa's tiniest treasures? So here's my question. If you could wear feathers that shimmered in sunlight, would you show them off everywhere you go, or keep them as your secret glow? Tell me in the comments. And now for our grand finale, we meet a bird that takes color to the extreme. Brilliant crimson, sky blue faces, and wings that light up the air. To close our journey, let's welcome the spectacular Northern Carmine Bee-eater. We've seen hunters, builders, dancers, and even birds that walk on water. But to close our journey, we meet a bird that is pure spectacle, the Northern Carmine Bee-eater. If color had wings, this is what it would look like. These bee-eaters are dressed in blazing crimson from head to tail, with turquoise blue faces and wings tipped in black. Against the golden skies of northern Nigeria, they look like living flames darting through the air. Their beauty is so striking that even seasoned birdwatchers stop in their tracks, jaws dropping at the sight. But they're not just pretty. Carmine bee-eaters are highly skilled hunters. As their name suggests, they specialize in catching bees, wasps, and other flying insects, snatching them mid-air with acrobatic precision. And here's the fun part. Before eating stinging insects, they slam them against a branch to remove the venom. It's like dinner prep, bird style. Here's a fun fact. Carmine bee-eaters are social to the core. They live in colonies that sometimes number in the thousands, nesting in burrows they dig into sandy riverbanks. Imagine standing by a Nigerian river at dusk and seeing the cliffs alive with flashes of red and blue. Thousands of tiny torches flickering in and out of their burrows. It's one of the most spectacular bird scenes in Africa. Now for the twist. Their beauty comes at a price. Bright colors make them easy to spot, and human disturbance near nesting sites can threaten whole colonies. Yet their resilience is remarkable. Year after year they return, filling the skies with movement, sound, and brilliance. Imagine ending your day with the sun setting low and a flock of Northern Carmine bee-eaters slicing through the air, glowing like sparks against the sky. Would you see them as birds or as flying pieces of art? So here's my question. If you could choose one of Nigeria's rare birds to see in person, would it be the eagle, the parrot, or this dazzling bee-eater? Tell me in the comments. And with that, we close our journey through Nigeria's skies. 15 rare and remarkable species that prove this country is not just rich in culture and history, but in natural wonders as well. And there we have it, 15 rare and unforgettable birds of Nigeria. From the powerful cry of the African fish eagle, to the clever mimicry of the Grey Parrot, to the dazzling colors of the Northern Carmine Bee-eater, each bird reminds us that Nigeria is far more than bustling cities and rich culture. It's also a sanctuary of breathtaking wildlife. Nigeria's rivers, savannas, wetlands, and forests hold treasures that many people around the world will never see in person. These birds aren't just beautiful, they are storytellers, architects, dancers, and guardians of their habitats. Protecting them means protecting the very heartbeat of Nigeria's wild spaces. If you enjoyed this journey, please give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and share it with someone who loves nature as much as you do. And let us know in the comments, which Nigerian bird amazed you the most today? Was it the fearless Jacana walking on water, the fiery black-winged bishop, or the spectacular bee-eater lighting up the skies? Thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep wondering, and never stop being amazed by the incredible birds of our world.